I'm hiking along a river right now. That's just about, an hour and a half north of Tokyo. You see, I just happened to stumble across this spot on Google Maps while working on a previous project about abandoned villages, and kind of just wanted to come out here and do some hiking. There's like really big planes flying overhead. There's no way I'm gonna be able to do, like, that is a huge plane. I've actually been hiking through this area for about the last 2 to 3 hours. I'm just trying so hard not to slip right now. This place is called Chichibu, and it's just north of Tokyo in an area called Saitama. And when most people think Saitama, they think the bed town that people live in and commute into Tokyo for work. But Chichibu itself is an area full of mountains and rivers, hiking trails, and everything in between. And it's close enough to Tokyo that you can get out here pretty easily. A couple years back, I think I did an entire like ice waterfall out here in Chichibu that was just spectacular. But I am going to be setting up camp here in this area for the night. What in the... Have you ever seen Totoro? There's just little acorns rolling down the hill. It was a really cloudy day when I started today's hike, but the sun came out about 20-30 minutes ago and has really added to the temperature of things, which is my way of saying I'm incredibly hot. I've secured myself a bit of a space over here. It's already honestly a bit more crowded than I'm used to. Usually I go camping out in Nagano, which has like the highest density of campsites in all of Japan. And so it's really easy to get an empty campsite on a weekday because there's just so many campsites there. But probably gonna use this area here and set myself up a little hammock in the trees. And yes, I am aware that this is not the perfect setup for a hammock, but you work with the space that you have. This is actually a really big hammock, by the way. Like, you can fit like 2 or 3. You can't see it, can you? You know what? There's no way to. It's a big hammock. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. It's a big hammock. Fire pit and the tent. Grabbed this tent last year online for like $50. Not expecting a lot, just like that it came in a small package, and it has served me well. This tarp is great for holding the space, but it's really tough. Every time I've gone camping lately, I've had the camper van with me, so it's kind of nice. It's nice just to have the tent this time and to be able to relax out here for a night, but it's a lot less camping and a lot more, a little bit of food, early bed, and then waking up to get out to the areas to do some hiking tomorrow. I gotta build up the coals here. Supermarket had this little single serving sauce for yakiniku, or I guess grilled meat. Listen to the hiss from that grill. Okay. Alright, food is done. Tent is all set up. And I thought this was Totoro at first. Got a little cat buddy. Good night, kitty cat. All right, once this fire dies down, I'm gonna call it a night. Get a reasonable start tomorrow. I was gonna make some coffee here, but Erie got real crowded real fast. Cleaned up, feeling fresh. The drive out here, blue skies the entire time. The second I arrived in the mountains, nothing but gray. But I left off at this very spot a few months back, and I'm forever gonna be curious about this pathway here. Maybe someday I'll come back. And I have no idea what is down this path. I don't know if it goes on for 2 minutes, if it goes on for 2 hours, but I always told myself that I would come back and check out this spot right here, starting with this incredibly sketchy, broken bridge. That's the first challenge. Are we gonna die going across the bridge? All right, and this right here is the pathway. I gotta make sure I don't fall off the side over here. Oh wow, I don't even know how far I'm gonna be able to go on this, to be honest. Look at this, right up here. At some point there's clearly been a bit of a landslide. Woo. This is gonna be a fun little trek, and I'm trying so hard not to slip here. And I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, but there are segments of some of the abandoned villages out here. But let's go this way and try not to die. This area has actually grown over quite a bit. I don't know how far I'm going to be able to make it on this trail. You know what? I might just go up there. It looks difficult, but you know what? Let's do it. That was not the right direction. I'm gonna go this way. The difficulty here being is that if I slip, there's a bit of a fall. You really can't see how steep things are on video. But that brings us up to here. And finally, the sun is coming out a little. So much nicer with the sun. Whenever I do these hiking adventures, aside from the bear spray and the satellite tracker and all the other precautions that I take, is you'll notice I often wear some form of clothing that contrasts with the environment and the nature that I'm in, solely in the hopes that if something does go terribly wrong, like me falling down into this precipice, that hopefully people would be able to find me a little bit easier simply based off of the color of the clothing that I'm wearing. So this I'm loving this path, by the way, like every little bit of this. Oh, little river down there too. So while on the surface this may just look like mountains, you'll notice that there's actually kind of a pathway built along here in some sections, and that's because originally these pathways were used to connect different mountain villages. Like you can actually see the remnants of a village down there, and the merchants and traders would go from village to share their products, or well, sell their products, or sell charcoal and stuff like that. And that's how they conducted business and kept the area alive. So I'm just trying to find the path that connects down to the next village without falling down the mountain and dying. Despite being out here in the middle of the forest, that pole is for the electrical wires that run down to the next village. Okay, I think we can get down this way. Rolled my ankle. Oh, and this is why you want to come out to places like this in hiking boots. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm hoping so much that this path actually goes down into this area and doesn't just, what's it gonna do, dump me out onto the roof of this house? It is, isn't it? It's gonna dump me out right into the, oh boy. All right. It just feels so ridiculous to be just pushing through all of this. Oh, you know what? I think this is exactly where I want it to be. Honestly, it feels ever so slightly anticlimactic for that path just to lead back to a village that I've wanted to walk that path for months now, and just led back here, back to a village I've already been to. Like, if you're a fairly regular viewer, you may recognize some of these items. I stayed out in this area for 2 days to hunt down locals who once lived in these abandoned villages and tell their stories. Made an entire documentary about it and a behind the scenes, but that behind the scenes ended at that pathway where I just was, and I've just been wondering ever since where it leads to. While I absolutely love doing these videos out in forests and in nature, there's just something that is really, really missed on camera. You can't really capture the beauty of the area. Everything kind of blends together. You don't have that depth perception that you have in real life. Like this space here, this in real life has so much depth and contrast and sharp angles, and the camera just, it doesn't pick it up in the least. It's just hard to really truly capture and show what it looks like through a camera, which is one of the reasons why I really hope that people will come out here and explore these areas, because these mountains, for the most part, around the Urayama Dam area have just gone pretty much completely abandoned. Even hikers don't come up here. It's not just like the buildings and structures and whatnot that have been abandoned. I met a hiker here last time who said that she'd been hiking forever and didn't see anybody, but 10 years ago she used to see people hiking around here, and it's become a much more rare sight. This is becoming like a forgotten area, and it's so close again to Tokyo. It's just north and to the west a bit. It's Chichibu. It blows my mind that a place like this can slowly become lost and forgotten when there's just so much beauty to be seen. You know, I'm gonna get set up. I think I'm gonna walk up this way, get set up, and finally have some coffee. Trip, I didn't bring a proper cup with me, so a viewer was kind enough to send me an actual titanium mug, and I love that. Thank you for that. That should be about good. And got my favorite little drip coffee bags, and this particular one is actually from the abandoned school out in the mountains of Shikoku, where my buddy Yo-chan lives. He invited me out recently and he gave me a bunch of coffee. I have what Japanese people call it nekojita, which is they call it cat tongue. And basically a cat tongue is when you can't handle really hot foods and drinks, and that 100% that just describes my life right there. Actually, in one of the nearby villages, there's a super sad story that I never got the chance to tell last time, about a gentleman who lived in the area and had something like 10 dogs, but a few months ago he passed away. All of his dogs, his property, all of it's still there. So people from the local community center and around the area have been going every few times a week to take care of the dogs. I think a lot of them are old and they don't want to take them from the place that they know is home, and they're getting fed and everything anyway, but they're still locked up. But it was this whole sad side story that didn't make the final cut of the documentary. But this area is just filled with stories. Alright, so I was driving along and there's just like this big old family of monkeys just hanging out on the road. The very first time that I ever actually found the abandoned village, I ended up leaving because there was a very curious monkey that just kept getting closer and closer, and I was like, nope, I'm in an abandoned village all alone. I am not having my camera stolen by a monkey. So I wrap up for the day, and now we have beautiful blue skies and the sun is fully out and shining. This place, to me, the fact that I had to come back here and do this was the equivalent, this was like the location equivalent to an earworm for me. I could not get this out of my head. Slightly anticlimactic, but honestly very, very worth coming out here and doing. So I hope that you enjoyed this little outdoor excursion adventure experience, which served zero purpose outside of just getting that out of my head. You'd be surprised, genuinely surprised, at how often I was thinking about where does that. I also found this spot that I quite love. It's not even really part of the trail. It's just a log beside a wall. So it's a log beside a wall.